I'm your host, Pastor Edna Fernandez. Welcome to the show For Such a Time as This, founded on Esther 4:14. And I just want to assure each and every one of you that you are called for such a time as this, and you are anointed. And I hope that that will sink in your spirit and that it would resonate there, that you are called. God has ordained you and assigned you for a specific assignment, a kingdom mandate that is over your life, and that you just continue walking by faith. I pray that you be encouraged. I pray that the message would minister to you. And this message is on 1 Samuel 1 through 15, where this is part 2. I hope you were blessed by watching part 1, where I'm going to speak on Hannah and Peninnah. And we're in 1 Samuel 1. It's a story of Elkanah and his family at Shiloh, where there was a man named Elkanah from the tribe of Ephraim, who lived in the town of Ramah, in the hill country of Ephraim. He was the son of Jeroham and grandson of Eliahu, and belonged to the family of Tohu and part of the clan of Zuppah. Elkanah had 2 wives, Hannah and Peninnah. Peninnah had children, and Hannah did not. Every year, Elkanah was from Ramah. Every year, Elkanah went from Ramah to worship and offer sacrifices to the Lord Almighty at Shiloh, where Hophni and Phinehas, the 2 sons of Eli, were priests of the Lord. I'm at 1 Samuel 1:4. Each time Elkanah offered a sacrifice, he gave 1 share of the meat to Peninnah and 1 share to each of their children. 5. And even though he loved Hannah very much, he would give her only 1 share because the Lord had kept her from having children. 6. Peninnah, her rival, would torment and humiliate her because the Lord had kept her childless. 7. This went on year after year. They went to the house of the Lord. Peninnah would upset Hannah so much that she would cry and refuse to eat anything. 8. Her husband Elkanah would ask her, "Hannah, why are you crying? Why do you not eat? Why are you always so sad? Don't I mean more to you than 10 sons?" Hannah and Eli. We're now at 1 Samuel 1, 9 and 10. One time after they had finished their meals in the house of the Lord at Shiloh, Hannah got up. She was deeply distressed, and she cried bitterly and prayed to the Lord. Meanwhile, Eli, the priest, was sitting there in a place by the door. 11. Hannah made a solemn prayer. "Lord God Almighty, look at me, your servant. See my trouble and remember me. Don't forget me. If you give me a son, I promise that I will dedicate him to you for his whole life and that he will never cut his hair." She made a vow right there, and she made a promise to the Lord that if he granted her request, that she would dedicate her son for life and never cut his hair. And that was a Nazirite vow, that they never cut their hair, that they be dedicated unto the Lord. Okay, so in 12, Hannah continued to pray to the Lord for a long time, and Eli watched her lips. 13, she was praying silently. Her lips were moving, but she made no sound. So Eli thought that she was drunk, and he said to her, "Stop making a drunken show of yourself. Stop your drinking and sober up." 15. No, I'm not drinking, sir, she answered. I haven't been drinking. I am desperate, and I have been praying, pouring out my troubles onto the Lord. 16. Don't think that I am a worthless woman. I have been praying like this because I'm so miserable. 17. Go in peace, Eli said, and may the God of Israel give you what you have asked him for. 18. May you always think kindly of me, she replied. Then she went away and ate some food and was no longer sad. The next morning, Elkanah and his family got up early, and after worshiping the Lord, they went back to the home. They went back to the home in Ramah. Elkanah had intercourse with his wife Hannah, and the Lord answered her prayer. 20. So it was that she became pregnant and gave birth to a son. She named him Samuel and explained, I asked the Lord for him. 21. That time came again for Elkanah and his family to go to Shiloh and offer to the Lord the yearly sacrifice, the special sacrifice she had promised. 22. But this time Hannah did not go. She told her husband, as soon as the child is weaned, I will take him to the house of the Lord, where he will stay all his life. 23. Elkanah answered, all right, do whatever you think is best. Stay at home until you have weaned him. And may the Lord make your promise come true. So Hannah stayed at home and nursed the child. 24. And after she had weaned him, she took him to Shiloh, taking along a 3-year-old bull, a bushel of flour, and a leather bag full of wine. She took Samuel, young as he was, to the house of the Lord at Shiloh. After they had killed the bull, they took the child to Eli. 26. Hannah said to him, excuse me, sir, do you remember me? I am the woman you saw standing here praying to the Lord. I asked him for this child, and he gave me what I asked for. 28. So I am dedicating him to the Lord. As long as he lives, he will belong to the Lord. Then he worshiped the Lord here. Then they worshiped the Lord here. I'm sorry. So Hannah had prayed to the Lord. She had prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed because she had an enemy who was just picking and picking and picking and picking at her, taunting her, ridiculing her, making her sad, making her cry, making her feel less. It was just ongoing year after year after year. And Hannah was troubled. She was saddened. She was grieved in her spirit, where not only was she sad and depressed, while Peninnah was just, giving it to her every day, just making her more downcast, just stealing her, everything from within her joy, her peace. Or I could imagine, I look at both sides. I look at Peninnah being blessed, being able to bear children and, multiply her family. But then I look at Hannah in this dark place, where she was mourning and grieving, and she was poor in spirit. She had no joy, nothing but sadness of wanting to bear a child so badly and not being able to because her womb was shut. But she continued to be faithful. She continued praying. Could you imagine? If you put yourself in her situation, she probably felt like giving up, but she didn't. when you're in that situation where your enemy's just like on you and ridiculing you, bullying you, saying all sorts of evil against you, gossiping, backbiting, looking at her downcast, looking at her like a nothing, looking at her like I'm blessed and highly favored and you are nothing. So could you imagine how horrible Hannah felt? Not being able to have children, feeling alone, feeling abandoned, feeling rejected, while the other wife was having kids left and right, and she's not having nothing. And even though they both, he would feed them both meat every year at the sacrifice, Hannah felt less because of what she had, what Peninnah had. And Peninnah was so self-centered, so thinking only of herself. She didn't have no empathy for the one that didn't have, the one that was least. And it wasn't, and don't get me wrong here in the message, don't take it like I'm saying that Hannah was least, because Hannah was not least. As we continue on the story, it might have looked like Peninnah was more blessed because the kids that she was popping out left and right, while this one didn't. No, they were both blessed. And he had both beautiful wives. So while one looked blessed and highly favored and one looked least, Hannah's prayers to the Lord, she was so desperate and so miserable and so saddened and so grieved and so poor in spirit, but she didn't stop seeking the Lord. That took a lot of boldness and courage. It shows me that she had the boldness and courage like Esther, like Queen Esther. Esther had favor with God, just like she had favor with the king. And because of Hannah's prayers and request and her not eating because she was so sad and miserable and tormented by Peninnah, that she even chose not to eat. She was so grieved. But her prayers reached the heaven, and God gave her favor. But most of all, God gave Hannah a double portion. Because what she asked, God granted her. Where she was not despised by the Lord. She was faithful in her prayer. You could say she was fasting because she gave up her meals because she was so tormented she couldn't even eat. So technically she was fasting because she gave up her meal. And God graced her and favored her because of her faithfulness to not give up, to continue seeking the Lord. She continued in the temple to where her words and her prayers became silent. And they thought that she was drunk even with wine and strong drink. Could you imagine? So much taunting, so much ridicule, so much bad things spoken over her. They thought she was cursed because her womb was closed. Oh, she can't have children. She must have been in disobedience or, been in some kind of sin. No. It wasn't even that. They misjudged her. They spoke ill words against her. But all she could do is pray and cry out to the Lord. It says in Hannah's prayer, "The Lord has filled my heart with you. How happy am I because of what you have done. I laugh at my enemies, how joyful I am. No one is holy like you, Lord. There is none like you. No protector like our God. Stop your loud boasting, silence your proud words, for the Lord is a God who knows, and he judges all that the people do. The bows of strong soldiers are broken, but the weak grow strong. The people who once were well fed now hire themselves out to get food. But the hungry are hungry no more. The childless wife has bore 7 children, but the mother of many is left with none. The Lord kills and restores to life. He sends people to the world of the dead and brings them back again. He makes some poor and others rich. He humbles some and makes others great. He lifts the poor out of the dust and raises the needy from their misery. He makes them companions of princes and puts them in places of honor. The foundation of the earth belongs to the Lord. On them he has built the world. He protects the lives of the faithful people, but the wicked disappear in darkness. A man does not triumph by his own strength. The Lord's enemies will be destroyed. He will thunder against them from heaven. The Lord will judge the whole world. He will give power to his kings, and he will make his chosen king victorious. Then, now I'm going to read, that was Hannah's prayer. That was 2:1 through 10. And now in 11, then Elkanah was back home to Ramah with the boy Samuel, stayed at Shiloh, and served the Lord under the priest Eli. The sons of Eli were in 2 Samuel 2:1. I'm sorry, 2:12. The sons of Eli were scoundrels. They paid no attention to the Lord or to the regulations concerning what the priests could demand from the people. Instead, when someone was offered a sacrifice, the priest's servants would come with a 3-pronged fork while the meat was still cooking. 14. He would stick the fork into the cooking pot, and whatever the fork brought out belonged to the priest. All the Israelites who came to Shiloh to offer sacrifices were treated like this. 15. The fat was taken off and burned. The priest's servants would come to say to the one offering the sacrifice, "Give me some meat for the priest to roast." He wouldn't accept boiled meat from you, only raw meat. 16. If a person answered, "Let us do what is right and burn the fat first, then take what you want," the priest's servants would say, "No, give it to me now. If you don't, I will have to take it by force." 17. The sin of the sons of Eli were extremely serious in the Lord's sight because they treated the offering to the Lord with such disrespect. Samuel at Shiloh. In the meantime, the boy Samuel continued to serve the Lord wearing a sacred linen apron. 19. Each year, his mother would make a little robe and take it to him. When she accompanied her husband to offer the yearly sacrifice. 20. Then Eli would bless Elkanah and his wife and say to Elkanah, "May the Lord give you other children by this woman to take the place of the one she dedicated to him." After that, they would go back home. 21. The Lord would bless Hannah, and she had 3 more sons, 2 daughters. The boy Samuel grew up in the service of the Lord. 22. Eli was now very old. He kept hearing about everything the sons were doing and the Israelites, and that they were even sleeping with women who worked at the entrance of the tent of the Lord's presence. 23. So he said to them, "Why are you doing these things? Everybody tells me about the evil you are doing." 21. I'm sorry, 24. Stop it, my sons. This is an awful thing the people of the Lord are talking about. 25. If anyone sins against someone else, God can defend the one who is wrong. But who can defend someone who sins against the Lord? But they would not listen to their father, and for the Lord had decided to kill them. 26. The boy Samuel continued to grow and to gain favor both with the Lord and with people. Wow. That's the prophecy against Eli's family, 27. A prophet came to Eli with a message from the Lord. When your ancestors Aaron and his family were slaves of the king of Egypt, I revealed myself to Aaron. 28. From all the tribes of Israel, I chose his family to be my priests, to serve at the altar and burn the incense, and to wear the ephods, to consult me. And I gave them the right to keep and share the sacrifices burned on the altar. 29. Why then do you look with greed at the sacrifices and offerings which I require from my people? Why, Eli, do you honor your sons more than me by letting them fatten themselves on the best parts of the sacrifices my people offer to me? 30. I, the Lord, the God of Israel, promised in the post that the family and your clan would serve me as priests for all time. But now I say I won't have it any longer. Instead, I will honor those who honor me, and I will treat with contempt those who despise me. 31. Listen, the time is coming when I will kill all the young men in your family and your clan, so that no man in your family will live to be old. 32. You will be troubled and look with envy on the blessings that I will give to the other people of Israel. But no one in your family will ever again live to old age. 33. Yet I will keep one of your descendants alive, and he will serve me as priest. But he will be blind and lose all hope, and all other descendants will die a violent death. 34. When the two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, both die on the same day, they will show you that everything I have said will come true. 35. I will choose the priest who will be faithful to me and do everything I want to. I will give him descendants who will also serve in the presence of my chosen king. 36. Any of the descendants who survive who have gone to the priest and ask him for money or food and beg and be allowed to help the priest in order to have something to eat. So what a powerful message, how Eli's sons turned from God and did evil while Samuel was dedicated and consecrated for God, not only as a prophet, but, as a priest. He was anointed, and he was a Nazarite, which is they kept their vow no matter what. And they wouldn't cut their hair, and, they were under the kingly priestly anointing. And he became one of the greatest prophets in the Bible. And he was already dedicated before he was even conceived in his mother's womb, because she had already offered that sacrifice to God, that if you bless me with this, I will give what you gave me back to you. And it amazes me, just like God gave his best by giving his only begotten son, she did the same thing and dedicated him for life. And so don't look at the naysayers, at your critics, at your rival, your enemy, the negative words that they're speaking over you. You stay faithful to God. You commit your will over to God, and He is going to anoint you. He is going to position you. He is going to He's going to do it. We don't do it on our own. Just like she didn't do it on her own. She trusted in God. She stood on and held on to the promises. So I'm speaking to those, I'm declaring and decreeing that it might look like you're in a barren place, in a dry place, in an unfruitful place. But God has planted a seed of greatness in you that's about to give birth. And I declare and decree that it will come into fruition and that you will come into your alignment and your mandate and your destiny, that God's plan will be fulfilled in your life. Where it might not look like you're bearing fruit right now, but in God's appointed time, He's going to anoint you, or that baby's going to give birth, that ministry is going to give birth. It could be that a business, whatever it may be, whatever it is that you're praying to the Lord for. He knows your prayers. He knows what you've prayed to Him. It will come to pass. I'm here to not only testify all the negative things that were spoken in my life, but it was through God. It was God that called me. It was God that anointed me. He even anoints you for the battle you're in and the storms, that you will come out, that you will fly to a higher altitude, just like the eagles. And the crows and your enemies that are picking at you, they will no longer be. Just like in the Egyptians. You know, the enemies that you see now, you will see no more. So I pray you were blessed. I pray you were encouraged. Thank you for watching for such a time as this. And may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make His face to shine upon you.